would recommend to write down notes. This is one of the longest chapters that we have, and you might think it might be dumb, but it's important to know this as follows. Does anyone know why we study anatomy and physiology? No?
You gotta learn about the head, right?
Yep.
Literally.
Why the other things?
Why the other things? Well, scalp manipulations and facials are a common barbering service that rely on understanding the human anatomy of the face. Recognizing healthy hair, skin is important for infection control, as well as, but remember, we do not diagnose anyone's illnesses. It's more of a recommendation that you should see a dermatologist. We do not diagnose people. Also, we work with the bones of the face, and the skull contributes to the look of the haircut. Everyone has a different shaped head, which is the skull. So it will be different for every client. So knowing what bone is protruding out the back of the head, the side of the head, what there is important to know. Anatomy is also called gross anatomy. It is the study of human body structures, how the body parts work and are organized, and the science of the interconnected structures of organisms. The definition of physiology is the study of functions or activities performed by the body's functions. Today I'm just going to talk about cells, and then tomorrow I will talk about cells and tissues. Tomorrow they will talk about the organs and body systems. So today won't be that long, but it's important to know this stuff. Does anyone know the definition of what a cell is?
You said a cell?
Basic unit of something.
Life that performs vital functions, serving basic structural and functional component of all living organisms.
Yep. Cells are the basic unit of all living things. Bacteria, plants, animals, and human beings. Cells are made up of protoplasm. I wrote it up here if you don't know how to spell it. Protoplasm is a colorless jelly-like substance that stores nutrients, mineral salts, and water. So protoplasm makes up the cell. There are three different parts of a cell. You have the nucleus, cytoplasm, and membrane. Membrane is just how it spells, M-E-N-B-R-A-N-E.
What were the other two?
I'll go through it again. The nucleus, which is the center of the cell. It controls the growth, the reproduction, and it contains all the genetic material. So all the DNA that it would use to reproduce itself, and it controls the size and growth of the cell, which is the nucleus, and it's in the center of the cell.
They said it holds all the info for
The genetic material. So you have the nucleus, then outside of that would be the cytoplasm, which is the watery fluid that surrounds the nucleus, and it allows the cell to move freely within the cell membrane. The cell membrane is outside, which is the cell wall that holds all of the cytoplasm inside. So that would be your nucleus. And you have all the cytoplasm, which is the watery liquid. And then the cell membrane is the final wall that is on the outside. So the nucleus is in the middle. And then one last thing, the cell membrane is semi-permeable, which means it allows substances to enter the cell, which would be like the nutrients and anything that it would keep alive.
It's semi what?
Semi-permeable.
We get wet stuff in.
Some stuff,
Some.
not all stuff. For those of you that are not following on the book, I don't know if Grace told you, but part of the test that you're going to do is you're going to take a blank picture of all of this, and then you're going to have to fill in every part of the cell. So if you're not in the book and you're not paying attention to that picture, that's going to be your first test. Is you're going to fill in each part of the cell. You're going to get a blank picture and you're going to fill it in.
So yeah, the 3 basic parts.
No, more than that.
It's in the book.
You supposed to go to the chapter and follow
She's on page
I'm on like the very first page of the chapter.
on your ebook, I believe it's page 26 or 27.
Yep.
One of the two, something like that.
Exactly. So the basic structures of a cell and the functions. Cells go through a process called mitosis, which is the reproduction process that occurs when the cell divides into 2 identical daughter cells. And then centrals move to each other's side during the mitosis process to help divide the cell. So the process of mitosis is when the cells reproduce into 2 identical different cells. Within that process, the centrals are, what would you say, like tiny organisms, and like tiny cells, organisms inside that move from each side within the cell that help break it apart. Cells also require favorable conditions in order to grow and reproduce, which includes adequate water supply, food, oxygen, suitable temperatures, and the ability to remove waste, which goes into the semi-permeable, which allows certain things to enter and exit the cell. Any questions so far?
What are the things that separate them that you were talking about?
The centrals? Is anything confusing so far, making sense? Good?
Also, just FYI, we told you that in this chapter that there was going to be a lot of terms. So every single term that Grace has written up on the board, at some point you will need to know the definition of that term. This chapter is filled with a ton of definitions and a ton of terms. Also, one question that all of you will see on the state board, like everybody sitting in this room, 90% of you will see it on the state board, is that you need to know the definition of a cell, which is what?
The basic unit of life.
Living organisms.
Living organisms. Oh.
Basic
All
structure
units of
of
life.
all living things.
Basic structure of all living organisms. So, and if there's anybody sitting in the room Grace, sorry for hijacking this little part of it, but if there's anybody that's sitting in this room and you guys are not taking notes, you're gonna fail this test. There's no way that you can sit here and not take notes and pass this part of the test. So just know that if you're sitting here and you're not taking notes, then you're already behind. It's just no way you can pass it. It's impossible.
Especially, the verbiage that is used in this unit. It can be hard to pronounce, so especially when you get into the muscles, it's very important to be able to visually see it because some people might pronounce it differently, if that makes sense.
You said, what is that word behind you with the C mean again?
Centrals
Yeah.
is the process inside, so it's through mitosis. It's like the second part of mitosis. So mitosis is the process when the cells separate into two identical cells, but within that process, the centrals are moving inside of the cell from like the cell membrane, so it can divide into two different cells. So basically, they help with the process of mitosis. Metabolism is when cells convert into nutrients into energy through a chemical process. I'll say that one more time. Metabolism is when cells convert nutrients into energy through a chemical process. You don't need to know what that chemical process is. There are two different types of metabolism. You have anabolism and catabolism. Anabolism is the process of simple molecules combining into a form of complex molecules. This process requires energy. Metabolism requires energy in order to convert the energy in the cells.
So anabolism is a simple molecule combining into the glycol, like,
It's not a molecule, it's just
Exactly.
subdivided process of metabolism.
So when cells are converting their nutrients, so the cells they ate, now they're trying to convert what they ate into energy, and that process is called metabolism. There are two different types of metabolism. Anabolism requires energy. So it's using the food that the cell just ate. Catabolism releases energy. This is whenever it's releasing the toxins out of the cell. So this is the process of breaking down complex molecules down into simple molecules. So to make it into simple terms, the cell is eating. This is intaking the food, which requires energy, and then when it is released from the cell, it releases energy. So it's breaking it down. And this one is just first entering the process of breaking down nutrients. Does that make sense? Tissues. There are 4 different types of tissues that you will need to know. There are pictures in the book as well. I wish this TV worked so I could do that, but so connective tissue is a fibrous tissue that binds and supports other body tissues and organisms. connective tissue is a fibrous tissue that binds and supports other body tissues and organisms. Epithelial tissues protect and cover the body. Provides a covering that protects the body and is found within many parts of the body, such as the skin. So an example of epithelial tissue is your skin, digestive organs are lined with epithelial tissue. Your lungs are coated in epithelial tissue. The inside of your mouth, your heart, and any of your glands. Nervous tissue carries messages to and from the brain. They control and coordinate all body functions. Lastly, you have muscle tissue, which sounds as it is. It contrasts and moves various parts of the body. And then I know he just said there will be a cell quiz, but this book is different. And so I will have to double check with him with that. Because I don't think it goes into that much detail in this one.
There's only 3 points in this book, it's not
Yeah.
whatever you.
Yeah, so I will double check with him with that on the cell quiz, but as of right now, the most important things you need to know is the nucleus, inside, the cytoplasm, and then the cell membrane. Otherwise, I will let you know, but if anyone has any questions just about cells. Anything? Perfect. And then I do recommend going in your book and looking at the pictures, which are on page 28 shows the connective tissues, and then page 27 shows the picture of the cell. So I recommend seeing that if you are a visual person. Yeah, if there's no other questions, then that is the overview of cells.
What did you say it was 26 that you cells?
27 and 28 are where the pictures are in the book. But yeah. Perfect. If there's no other questions, then you guys are good to continue on with your assignments.
Thank you, Grace.
Thank you.